Good morning, everyone. This is the first of our 3-day devotions this Holy Week, starting today, April 9, until Saturday, April 11. Our daily devotion will be uploaded here on YouTube at 10 in the morning. Let's all watch together and participate in the discussion with your respective small groups after.
The purpose of these devotions is to see Jesus more clearly in this unique time in our history and in our own lives today. This will help us gain a deeper understanding of His purpose and how each of us can more closely follow Him in our relationships, our workplace, and in our communities. So we'll talk about three parables. This is the first parable.
The parable of the hidden treasure. Matthew chapter 13, verses 44 to 45. The kingdom of heaven is like a treasure hid in the field, when a man found and hid again, and from joy over it he goes and sells all that he has and buys that field. Verse 45 again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant seeking fine pearls, and upon finding one pearl of great value, he went and sold all that he had and bought it.
Here are the questions for the first parable reading. Number one, think back on a specific time in your life when you felt joy. This is not just pleasure or enjoyment or just being glad. This is joy. Joy are life changing moments when you had your first child, when you graduated from a degree, or when you experienced a great triumph. What did it take for you to achieve that joyful moment? What effort, sacrifices, other people's contributions, or unusual circumstances made that moment of joy possible? Number two, Jesus said that the kingdom of heaven is like the hidden treasure in the parable. Why is the kingdom hidden? If God loves us, why does the kingdom have to be hidden?
The miracle of Jesus walking on the water. Matthew chapter 14, verses 22 to 33. Verse 22, immediately he made the disciples get into the boat and go ahead of him to the other side, while he sent the crowds away. After he had sent the crowds away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. And when it was evening, he was there alone. But the boat was already a long distance from the land, battered by the waves, for the wind was contrary. And in the fourth watch of the night, he came to them, walking on the sea. When the disciples saw him walking on the sea, they were terrified and said, "It is a ghost!" And they cried out in fear. But immediately Jesus spoke to them, saying, "Take courage, it is I, do not be afraid." Peter said to him, "Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water." Verse 29, and he said, "Come." And Peter got out of the boat and walked on the water and came toward Jesus. But seeing the wind, he became frightened, and beginning to sink, he cried out, "Lord, save me." Verse 31, immediately Jesus stretched out his hand and took hold of him and said to him, "You of little faith, why did you doubt?" When he got into the boat, the wind stopped. And those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "You certainly are God's Son."
Just two questions on the miracle of Jesus walking on the water. First question, in this miracle, the reaction of his disciples was fear. What were the disciples afraid of? When Jesus said, "It is I," in Matthew 14:27, wasn't he also saying that his actions brought about their fear? Why do you think he made a show of walking on water? Second question, what is the significance for us today of his admonition to Peter? You of little faith, why did you doubt?
The parable of the prodigal son. And he said, "A man had two sons. The younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of the estate that falls to me.' So he divided his wealth between them. And not many days later, the younger son gathered everything together and went on a journey into a distant country. And there he squandered his estate with loose living. Now, when he had spent everything, A severe famine occurred in that country, and he began to be impoverished. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, and he sent him into his fields to feed swine. And he would have gladly filled his stomach with the pods that the swine were eating, and no one was giving anything to him. But when he came to his senses, he said, "How many of my father's hired men have more than enough bread, but I am dying here of hunger? I will get up and go to my father, and will say to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me as one of your hired men.' So he got up and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion for him, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and in your sight. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly bring out the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and sandals on his feet, and bring the fattened calf. Kill it and let us eat and celebrate, for this son of mine was dead and has come to life again. He was lost and has been found.' And they began to celebrate."
Questions for the parable of the prodigal son. The father in this parable is a model of God's wisdom, love, and forgiveness. Why did he give in to the younger son's request when he, most probably, knew that the son would squander the money and even risk his life? Can you think of a time, maybe in your youth, when you were headstrong and you pursued your desires no matter what the admonitions of your parents or peers were? What risks you took? What would have stopped you then? Last question. We do not realize how we are slaves to our own desires. Have you ever done something good and or beneficial consistently and with persistence even though you didn't like doing it?